Back to the pulled item, which was 431, and I believe that's our last item this morning, morning in heavy air quotes. 431, please.
Pay settlement of Heather Lynn Van Wild bodily injury lawsuit for $26,000 involving the Portland Police Bureau.
Colleagues, sorry, I've got the wrong one. 431, that's why it didn't make sense. This ordinance resolves a suit brought against the city in August of 2022. Chief Deputy City Attorney Lynn Vu and Senior Claims Analyst Dave Furrow are here to walk us through the ordinance. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Lynn Vu. I'm a Chief Deputy City Attorney. This settlement resolves claims brought by Heather Lynn Van Wild. Ms. Van Wild identifies as a person with disabilities and uses a walker. On August 23rd, 2020, Ms. Van Wild attended a protest event related to the murder of George Floyd. Prior to the event, Ms. Van Wild emailed Portland Police Bureau and other city employees to request disability-related accommodations to be provided during the protests, or during protests, excuse me. No city employee responded to the email. During the protest event, Ms. Van Wild was sitting on the steps of the Boys and Girls Club located on Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Her walker was next to her. After PPB declared a riot and in clearing the area, a PPB police officer moved Ms. Van Wild's walker out of her reach, causing her to fall and sustain injuries. Ms. Van Wild has brought federal claims under the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Rehabilitation Act, and the 4th and 14th Amendments, as well as state law claims of assault and battery. The parties participated in a judicial settlement conference on February 7th, 2023. The parties have then since agreed to settle this matter for $26,000, inclusive of attorney's fees, economic and non-economic damages. The city attorney's office and risk management both recommend approval of the settlement. I'm happy now to answer any questions you might have.
Colleagues, any question? Very good. I understand there are people who would like to testify on this. We've been limiting testimony to 2 minutes. We'll extend it to 3 minutes as a courtesy.
Okay, first up, we have Heather Lynn Van Wild.
Welcome.
Mayor, I would request, given the difficulties I've had over the holiday weekend trying to coordinate with your office for the ability to put a presentation together, a fairly brief one, as well as concerns about some misrepresentations from the city's presentation just now, I would request the opportunity to read a statement that is up to 10 minutes.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to decline. 3 minutes. The council can overrule me, but I don't think they will. And we can always accept written testimony. I've already increased it as a courtesy. We'd be happy to receive written testimony, but I cannot extend a 10-minute testimony. I didn't do it for anybody this morning. We had dozens of people sign up, so I'm disinclined to make a special accommodation.
Then I will skip the entire thing that I obsessed over this weekend. This press helmet was what I was wearing. It was not that I was attending a protest as a protester that night. I was attending a protest as a journalist. Judge Simon and the federal court had already signed, and the city had stipulated to, a protective order protecting journalists and legal observers from assault, excessive force, and dispersal orders that were as active well before this incident and only just got dissolved this past Friday. This is a very distinctive helmet, very distinctive lettering. There was absolutely no way that the police officer could have mistaken me for anything other than a journalist who was not engaging in any other unprotected First Amendment activity. The fact that those violations have been walked through time and time again in violation of Portland Police manual codes and city codes was frankly an affront to common decency, an affront to the First Amendment, and ironically, considering today has been ADA Day, a massive affront to the Americans with Disabilities Act. This ordinance today is not going to solve any of the underlying problems. I will go ahead and read the last paragraphs that I had here. All this settlement does is help to offset some of the injuries that come from one event with lifelong consequences. I'm not the first person to have come forward with a claim like this, although I may have been one of the last to file a claim. There are still lawsuits that are pending because of the actions of the Portland Police Bureau and its leadership. Last week, the Oregonian reported well over $1 million have been paid out to people as a result of this, with Street Root citing almost twice that, $1.7 million being spent on the city's own litigation costs. To my knowledge, none of this is coming from any responsible individuals. They're all being paid out of the city budget, which means we, the taxpayers, are ultimately paying for this. Be it higher taxes, reduced services, lower parking community center budgets, these costs have passed on to every single Portland resident. A yes vote on this agenda may well resolve my specific issue today, but it does not resolve any of the issues that have plagued this city for decades. If you truly do care about the well-being of all Portland residents, I ask that you take this opportunity to not just sweep this under the rug as another cost of doing business, but as a reminder that these are real people being affected by these actions. Thank you for your time, and yes, I will be forwarding a copy of my full statements after the afternoon testimony is finished.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, I have
Mapps.
a quick question for the testifier. Just so I can be clear, are you asking council to vote no on this settlement?
No, I'm asking you to vote yes. This is my settlement. This is what I negotiated with, well, through my lawyer.
Okay, got it. Thank you. I wasn't quite clear. Got it.
No, I want you to take a look at this beyond just the settlement to the root causes.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mark Porras.
Mark, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yep. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Mark Porras. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm with the group Portland Cop Watch. We have no objection to the city paying this $26,000 settlement for police misconduct dished out by Officer John Doe on August 23rd, 2020, towards Heather Van Wild, a disabled veteran and independent journalist who is covering the night's protest in the very distinctive pink hard hat with press written in 2-inch tall letters that you just saw. The settlement raises the total, according to our records, paid out by the city for protests between 2018 and 2020 to at least $1,280,405. Street Roots reported on another $166,080 in settlements that apparently never came to council for votes, and more than $1.75 million in the city's own legal fees for cases in 2020 alone. We hope that Ms. Van Wild is fully recovered from her injuries and the psychological harm that the unidentified officer caused her. We continue to object to the minimizing term encounter being used to describe these displays of brutality by city employees in official documents. From court records, we understand that an unidentified Portland police officer moved Ms. Van Wild's walker, which she uses as an assistive device, 10 to 15 feet out of reach, which led to her falling and injuring her knee, shoulder, face, and chest on the sidewalk. The impact of her fall also caused the seal of the gas mask she was wearing to break, and she suffered the effects of tear gas inhalation for 3 days afterwards. Other important information that this case also ought to inform and policy and procedure changes to Portland Police Bureau. Ms. Van Wild had submitted a reasonable accommodation request to PPB 2 weeks prior, requesting minor modifications of crowd dispersal practices in order to prevent PPB from causing her injury while she covered the protests. 2 weeks seems like long enough for the Police Bureau to inform officers that even if they somehow decide it's okay to use force on a member of the media, they must also consider whether that person is living with a disability and has reasonably asked for accommodations so they won't be brutalized while performing their work. We testify on these settlements in an attempt to get you to discuss the policies that keep these lawsuits coming. In this case, we wonder if the city attorney has worked with PPB to modify policies around reasonable accommodations for disabled members of the media covering protests. We wonder if the officer responsible for this settlement knows the city is paying out $26,000 today on their behalf. We wonder if anyone even knows who that officer is, other than the person who clearly has not come forward to accept responsibility. The ordinance states that the total cost to the city to settle the lawsuit is $26,000, which disregards the time and money that risk management and city attorneys spent settling this case. At this point, using the word total in the ordinance is purposefully misleading considering the aforementioned data Street Roots recently published showing that the city spends more paying its lawyers than it does compensating those who file civil claims. We ask you again to include this information with every settlement so the public has a better understanding of the cost of policing in Portland. And we appreciate that when a $15,000 settlement came before you last month due to PPB's lack of clear policy on evictions, the mayor asked the city attorney if PPB improved policies because of the lawsuit. Despite the fact the city attorney said no, there weren't any policy changes made, we appreciate the engagement and we urge you to engage on this settlement and all future police misconduct settlements that come before you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Next up, we have Haley Nolan in person. Is Haley Nolan here? Okay, that completes testimony.
Very good. This is an emergency ordinance. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ryan?
Aye.
Gonzalez?
Aye.
Maps?
Aye.
Rubio?
Aye.
Wheeler?
Aye, the ordinance is adopted, and we are adjourned until 2 p.m.